this is Ronny Whitman, and I'm here to tell you about my 6-book series, A Contract Written in Gold. So, let us begin. My books are about two souls. When they first met, it was on a planet where he was a merman and she was the light, part of the source of all power, God. From this life, they were reborn into many other lives, always finding each other in one of these lives, the one directly after the one from the planet of Mer people, was when they went to the Fey Queen, who saw their past and their future lives, and from this she offered them a contract that would be written in gold, that would assure they would always find each other no matter what happens. However, in one life, which turned out to be my first book, The Power of Love, was when everything changed and when this life bond contract would be tested. I didn't want to start at the beginning, but somewhere, let's say in the middle, where I can go from there to the future, then to the past, to their first life together, then forward to the life before the one in my first book. And in these lives, it ties everything together to their life in the power of love. Now, let us get into each book and what they are about. The first book, The Power of Love, is about two prominent families who decide the only way to ensure his power in the land was for the Davenports, the most powerful families, would merge with another powerful families whose name was recognized going back to William the Conqueror. A contract was drawn up, and when each family gave birth to their firstborn, one a son and the other a daughter, with the birth of their firstborn, a preliminary marriage was performed. At the same time, they signed the contract with the priest as their witness. A contract, if broken, would force the family at fall into exile or face death. Now, moving forward 10 years, both children are 10 years old, and it was time for them to meet and announce their engagement. Grace Macy was not happy about this and decided to form a plan after their first family get-together when she noticed how much Robert Davenport and her sister Elizabeth, who was a year younger, had a great deal in common with their love for the outdoors. Grace's plan was to convince her sister she would be the best one to spend time with Robert, since he loved the outdoors as much as she did, and how much she hated it. It wasn't so hard to convince her after a little push and pleading, using those little, eyelashes of hers and, anyways, pushing the thought that there was someone who loved the outdoors as much as she did. Well, everything worked out perfectly, and when Robert and Elizabeth fell in love, she was sure, as her father's favorite, she would be free of an unwanted marriage. However, what they were unaware of was how strict the contract was, that it did not allow any changes no matter the circumstances. So when they revealed their relationship deception, Robert and Elizabeth were forbidden to be together, and Grace would marry Robert as planned. However, since their bond was strong, they went against their families and continued their relationship until Robert, after convincing his mother to allow him to see the agreement, formed a plan that would allow him and Elizabeth to be together. This one decision would change everything, including ending the life of one family. Okay, so kind of give you a little insight of this. What's unique about this story in this timeline, circa 1500, was the spiritual connection Robert and Elizabeth felt. Although they didn't understand it, as it wasn't a part of this time, they believed what they felt was stronger than anyone knew, that it could only have come from God, that no man has a right to interfere with what God wants. Yes, there are similarities, as you may see when you read the story or just knowing the background of it, the similarities to Romeo and Juliet. But the obvious difference is their families were friends and wanted this merger, where Romeo and Juliet's family were at odds, enemies. And with Romeo and Juliet's family, it was only the children who lost their lives. With Robert and Elizabeth, it was a whole family that lost their lives. So, anyways, if this is interesting to you, please look for the link in below so you can go and purchase a book and read the story for yourself. Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Hello, this is Ronny Whitman, and I'm going to talk to you about Love Across Time, my second book in the series of A Contract Written in Gold. This book picks up where Rebecca, who used to be Elizabeth, goes to a private investigator after having dreams of her past life, of the love she used to have with Robert, who she learned was now Marco, who lives in England and has a grandmother who comes from a family of powerful psychics who connected with Rebecca and helped her connect with Marco. With the information she received from her dreams and meetings with psychics, she learns enough about Marco that she feels is enough to hire a private investigator to try and find Marco, to prove to herself he is real and not a figment of her imagination or just someone she dreamed up. But how does she explain this to the private investigator? Does she tell the truth or a lie? As Rebecca leaves the private investigator's office, she reflects on her life, going back to her childhood, how her life experience brought her to where she is now, which is where her story, picks up. The story goes from Rebecca's childhood to Marco's childhood, how different their lives are, and this continues throughout their lives to when they connect in their dreams. You see, Rebecca was born into an unloving family and a poor one, where Marco, although he had a loving family, he had wealth, he had status, he really didn't have a very stable life. His mother was about power, control. It was his grandmother who gave him the motherly love he didn't receive from his mother, and she became a very important person in his life, as you will learn when you read my book. In this book's story, I introduced the idea of spirituality, psychic abilities, paranormal, past lives, reincarnation, God, and the spiritual realm. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of books out there that probably have some of this in there, but I wonder how many have them all, including karma. Well, you'll have to read my book and see how it goes. Marco and Rebecca's story is told through Rebecca, telling her story, then flashes to Marco and tells his story to the spiritual realm with their guides watching over them, to when Rebecca, after reading a book, gets the help of a Wiccan who gives her a spell to find her true love, which once done, Rebecca, along with Marco, flashes images of each other. One is of the past, while the other is of the present. This is the beginning, their way back to each other. In order for this to happen, they need to right the wrong they did in their past lives. Karma. With everything, they both spiral out of control. However, Marco has his grandmother, where Rebecca has no one, and makes a decision that puts her in the path of evil and spirits from her past life. And I'll tell you, not a fun thing, which you will learn if you read my book. Will they find their way back to each other, or will their contract written in gold be put in jeopardy? Guess you'll have to find out when you read my book. Okay, anyways, this story is a continuation of book 1, obviously, The Power of Love, and I wanted to introduce paranormal, spirituality, God, past lives, reincarnation, psychic power, and the power of love. Love is the greatest power out there, more powerful than anything else you can possibly imagine. I believe this. 100% I believe this. And the way I tied them all together, the past and the present, to one life as both Elizabeth, as both Rebecca becoming Elizabeth, no longer only Rebecca, but as Elizabeth and Rebecca, and Robert and Marco, no longer only Marco, but are now Marco and Robert. Interesting, isn't it? Their lives, let's just say, merged together. And we'll leave it at that. So, check out this book and read it for yourself. Thank you very much.